so glad you joined us today. We're going to have a great show. Have you ever heard of Catholic Charities? Catholic Charities is the largest social service network in the United States. If you're like me, you've heard the name, but you don't know all the services that they provide. Today, we're speaking to one of their directors. And as I was doing the interview, I realized they had so many services that I could have used when I was a caregiver. So please listen and take notes, and maybe they have some services that will support you. Autumn is here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show. Autumn is here. I'm your host, Francine Crawford. Today we have a guest, Debra Hoffer, and she is the Director of Homebound Operations at the Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens. And we're so glad to have her today. Welcome to the show, Debra.
Thank you so much for having me, Francine.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, good. Thank you for taking the time out to talk about your organization. We really appreciate that. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, first I'll start a little bit about the agency and then kind of go into how I got involved.
Sure.
I represent Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens, and they've been around for over 125 years. We just celebrated our 125th anniversary. Yeah, so it's amazing. We're actually one of the largest social service agencies in all the five boroughs.
Mhm.
We have over 160 programs. We serve basically all age groups from early childhood to older adults, and we are one of the largest housing providers again in New York. So it's a wonderful organization. They're there to serve the people, the vulnerable, the people that are underserved, and I feel very, very fortunate to have joined the agency. Now it's, oh my gosh, I think I just have approached my 25th year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It goes so fast, Francine, like a blink of an eye, my goodness. But it's funny because I've been a social worker for actually over 25 years, really close to 30 years, but I worked in different organizations. I used to work with the developmentally disabled and the homeless population. And while it was a pleasure serving all the different populations, I think when I started working with Catholic Charities first as a Meals on Wheels social worker, I
Mhm.
really identified working with the older adults, and I really felt it was a privilege because to me, I was always a big history buff. And to hear about people's life stories, which is really kind of what you do as a social worker working with seniors, is you learn about their life history.
Mhm.
And I met people that helped build the Empire State Building, and I was hooked. I think I should have paid the agency for those jobs because it really was such an honor hearing people's that had involved in real life history. It was amazing. And like I said, it was a privilege. So I started as the Meals on Wheels social worker, got promoted through the years to becoming a program manager at a few senior centers, now called older adult centers. Then became a director of field operations, overseeing different programs, which also included our case management program, which is what I'll talk about in a little more detail in a moment. And all the services surrounding older adult services for Catholic Charities. So I've been involved with Meals on Wheels, which is our home delivered meals program, our older adult centers, and our case manager program. So it's a wonderful set of programs to really help people that one are independent. They can go to our senior centers and enjoy all the health and education programs, a lovely hot meal, socialization. And now I'm focused really more on the homebound side, which is the Meals on Wheels program and the case management program. So those programs specifically are to serve people now that are in a position in their life where they can't get around the community as much. They're more or less homebound. They may not have family that can really support them every day. So that's kind of where we step in. We can provide home delivered meals, which is a meal every day, Monday through Saturday. But it's 7 meals for the week that they get. And it's a daily check-in, which is such a critical part of this program because, again, families are scattered now. Even if they're living in New York, they're probably working. They can't check on their loved one every day. Our drivers do and have saved people. I can't tell you how many times in my 25 years working for the agency where a driver found someone behind the door. They had fallen, they were sick, and if the driver wasn't there, I'm not sure somebody really would have survived.
Mhm. Wow, that's
Yeah.
so with your agency, you said that you take care of young and old.
Yes.
You have services, specific services for them. Okay, it doesn't matter if they have certain conditions, if they have certain conditions, do you still take them in? Do you still deal with them?
Well, the agency itself, it's a spectrum of with early childhood to families to homeless to older adults. So again, from my part where I'm talking about now, kind of give you the specifics is more the older adult profile,
Okay.
portfolio, I'll say. And with the Meals on Wheels that we talked about, the idea is, and now I will also partner it with telling you a little bit about case management because that's kind of how they generally enter the system. Somebody calls from the community. It might be the person, the older adult themselves, or a family member or a friend, and says, you know what, my mother, my cousin, my whomever is not doing so well. Like, I see that they're not eating, like they're just eating cereal all day and they can't get out to a center. They really can't cook the hot, nutritious meal. They need some help. So that's kind of where we spring into action. So we take their information as long as someone's 60 and older and can't get around the community like they used to, if they're pretty much homebound, not that they can never leave the house, but they can't leave on a regular basis, usually because of some mobility impairment or some health issue, and they don't have family to support them to get them their meals and things like that, then we come into play. We do a full intake over the phone. That's how it starts. As long as someone's 60 and older and meets our criteria, it doesn't matter how much money they make. They can make as much money as Elon Musk or have absolutely no money. We don't even care about if they're documented or undocumented. It doesn't matter. If they are an older adult living in the five boroughs, then again, if they're in our catchment area, we can assist them. So once we do the intake and we deem that they're eligible, then we schedule an appointment for one of our case managers to go and do an in-home assessment and just see what other services may be needed. Sometimes the client themselves doesn't even know what else that they need until my workers go and they kind of see how are they living. Like, yes, meals will be a big help, but you know what? I see you're having trouble cleaning your house. It looks like you might need some home care, housekeeping services, or maybe the person's having trouble like dressing, on a regular basis or bathing on a regular basis. Okay, great. So the person might need home care services where they're getting those services. So what's so unfortunate, again, there's no charge at all for the home delivered meals. It just, or our case manager program. For the Meals on Wheels, it's just a suggested donation. And even if the person doesn't pay a thing, they can still get the service, which is wonderful. Home care could have a possible fee. It really depends on the income of the person. Sometimes there's no fee and just a suggested donation, or sometimes there is a fee. And again, it's based on in that case, in that one and only time, it's based on their income and their assets. Okay, that and expenses. Um, but that's also could be a life-saving program. The whole point of these programs are really to keep people, if possible, safely in their home, right? And not having to go to a nursing home. If our services can do that, they very often stay the rest of their lives, in the community that they love.
Okay, that's one of the things I was going to talk about because I like your statement here. It says, that the goal of the program is to help older adults live independent as possible, as long as possible in their own homes.
Absolutely. As long as it's
That's
safe to do
great.
so,
Mhm.
that's our goal. And
Okay.
we work in partnership with the older adult. In other words, we're not there just to tell them what to do.
Mhm.
This is their life, their autonomy. So we work in partnership. Like, what do you want? What are your goals, right? I mean, and we also look again not just at their needs, but what are their strengths? Okay. And a big part of it too, which people don't realize. So let's say now the person doesn't need Meals on Wheels. They literally prefer to get Uber Eats and they're happy with that and they, whatever they like. But you know what? They still can't get out. Socialization is so important. I'm sure you've heard about these articles and the studies, and it's so true
Mhm.
that isolation can kill. So
Mhm.
that same person who may or may not need the meals, maybe they don't need the meals, but they have no access to making friends, keeping friends, to having someone to talk to about the Mets game, an opera, a TV show, just to stay engaged. Friendly visiting is also another program we can link them up to. And people don't realize that's such an important thing. Like people kind of live in isolation, don't not realizing there's these wonderful programs that can screen them for like a potential friend. So, and they do. And it's like Match.com. They literally they will talk to the client who's interested and get their interests and what are their likes and dislikes, and they will do everything in their power to match them with someone in the community that has similar interests that they feel will be a good match. And then once a week, they come and they visit the client, and they either can talk. It could either be a home visit, over the phone, over the computer. And I can't tell you because I've been watching this program now for, I would say at least 10 years from my perspective.
Mhm.
And these profound relationships, even when I can tell you stories like even when a client went to the nursing home, which technically would kind of end our partnership because when someone's not coming back to their home, we can't continue to serve them. But
Mhm.
yet the friendly visitor stayed in contact with them for the rest of their life and became their friend for the rest of their life. I mean, such beautiful, impactful stories, and not even just from the client, but from the volunteer as well. It really was very beautiful. I can't tell you how many times I've cried when we used to hear these stories at like volunteer recognition events. It was really truly beautiful.
So are you made up of mostly social workers that work with you?
In our program, the volunteers, no, the volunteers can be from all walks of life. But for the program, from our case management program, they're all trained case managers. So some are social workers, some are case managers, all thoroughly trained and very passionate about the work that they do.
How do you've been around for 125 years.
Yes.
How do you do your outreach? How do people know about you? Do you do
Well,
out?
that's a great question, and that's always been the challenge because we're constantly doing outreach, and sometimes like the tried and true don't always work, so we've been trying just because we were not serving enough people in Southwest Queens. Like our program serves people in our catchment areas of Southwest Queens, which is a big swath of Queens, and we have a sister program in Brooklyn serving Bensonhurst and Bay Ridge. So we still have more spots for people to give them services based on the number of older adults in these areas. But
Mhm.
either they don't know about us or they're afraid to try new services. So we try to do sometimes think out of the box. Like a couple of weeks ago in the freezing rain, I was in an outreach event in Brooklyn for my Brooklyn program where it was a food and pet pantry. So I'm out in the rain giving out brochures, talking to people. Listen, how do you get your meals? And wherever I think older adults may congregate or family members that love them. I go to masses and represent there. I go to houses of worship and do presentations with their other priests. We go to laundromats. We go to apartment buildings. We go pretty much anywhere you can think of, senior centers, of course, where I can get the word out. Me
Okay.
and my team.
You and your team.
Yes. Yeah, hospitals, dialysis centers, physical therapy places, not home care, rehab, you name it. We try to put our name out there as much as we can, like Johnny Appleseed, spreading the seeds. And hopefully then more people know about us, the better. Because you remember, our target population are generally homebound clients, well, our homebound clients that may not be getting out of the community. So I'm hoping by me doing these presentations, like I went to Christmas events and you name it, that they say, oh yeah, my neighbor would be perfect for this program. Excuse me.
Right.
And thereby, giving our brochure, hey, there's a program that'd be able to help you, Marjorie. Hey, John, this is a great program for you, and so again, the people that come and call us could be a social worker from a rehab. It could be the client themselves or a family member, whomever, as long as if it's not from the client originally,
Mhm.
then we call them because we want to check in with the client that that's what they want, you
Okay.
know. Yeah.
Well, question for you. Do you partner with medical teams? Because if you're going to help somebody suggests something, someone needs help, and you go visit them, and they might need more than just any housekeeping and things like that. You may notice that they have a condition or something like that.
Mhm.
How do you help them, or can you help them in any way?
Okay, that's a good question. We don't work, like, in other words, hand in hand with a doctor per se.
Mhm.
But what we do with the client's consent, because they have to give their consent, if we feel we, first of all, we are also a referral source. So If the person isn't able to get to a doctor, just let's say in the community, because some people live in a three-story walk-up, the ones that don't have elevators, right?
Mhm.
And because of their physical disability right now, they may not be able to get down the stairs to see a doctor. So we would refer them to different options of, home care calls, where the doctor comes to your home, house calls, I'm sorry. And they would come to visit with a person, do a full physical, etc. They would have choices and they and their family members can select the best choice for them. If we would again, if a client consents, we could have a conference call with a doctor, anything to help with advocacy. So, and if we see somebody who's failing, let's say we see that we were working with them for a year and then all of a sudden now they start limping very badly, just as an example, right? Our usually how that works, and it's a funny thing, because our case managers generally don't see the client well, they don't see the client every day. The people that see the client every day that usually they're the first ones to report a problem are the Meals on Wheels drivers.
Mm.
They know their clients so well because again, they're seeing them 5 to 6 days a week. So they'll say, "Oh, Mary just didn't look right. She was limping really badly." And this is the beauty of this program, of the programs working together. That driver then tells the staff because they're not social workers. They just know Mary doesn't look right, right? Maybe Mary looks confused or she's limping or whatever the issue with Mary might be. They let their supervisor know. Then their supervisor for the Meals on Wheels contacts our case manager program immediately. Then we are in discussions with the case manager, the supervisor, saying, listen, someone that needs to go to Mary or John like right away, see what's going on. This is the issue. And again, then we assess the situation. So we would either link them services, help with advocacy, work with their family members, if the client gives a consent to get them the services that they need, be it medical or otherwise.
Okay, so you do work with family members and caregivers?
Yes,
So,
if the client consents to such, yes.
okay, okay, okay. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to work, like I said, if whoever affects and impacts the client, we can be there to work with them, answer their questions, give caregiver support services. Because remember, you might have a daughter who's doing most of the work, but during the day she's not home because she's working, so she can't prepare the hot lunch. But
Mhm.
she might be getting overwhelmed, right? Because the
Right.
rest of the time she's there, or maybe she's that sandwich generation, right? She's working with her children, and then she's got her mom or her dad or both, and she's kind of getting burnt out. Well, again, we can support them as well by giving them information about caregiver services to give them support as well as the client.
Okay, okay. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I could have used these services.
Yeah, I see, and you didn't know we existed, and that's the thing. We're like, it's a shame because we are the best hidden secret. And here's the wonderful thing: if anyone contacts us, right? Let's say they got our name from one of the brochures, but they're really not in our catchment area. We don't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, wrong number." No, we'll find out where they live and find out who is the one that serves them. So there's no wrong door per se. We'll just give them the information on where they should be going. But it's good that they finally hear about us from anyone. And the same thing for other community-based organizations. If someone calls them, like self-help or Queens Community House, etc., if someone calls looking for services and they're not the provider, they're not the one in the catchment area, then they look for who is and then they refer. So it's a wonderful network of providers. Like again, we're all in it because we care passionately about what we do.
Okay, so you're representing Brooklyn and Queens, but they're still far reaching. They reach other places, other areas also.
Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens, we only provide services in Brooklyn and Queens, but
Mhm.
of course, people are in need in all the five boroughs, right? So what we do is we look at if somebody calls us and they're from the Bronx, let's just say somehow they got my brochure, we would still look up who is their provider, who is their service provider, and we would give them the information. Because in every area of the five boroughs, there is a community-based organization to help them based on where they live to provide them the services that I described earlier.
Is there anything that you're working on that new because people try to improve their program or do different things? So is there anything that's on the horizons that's coming up?
So new services for what we're providing. I don't think there's anything, let's say, new under the sun, except that as new services come around, again, we try to be very aware of what services are available for older adults. So
Mhm.
sometimes providers come in, sometimes providers go out, services change. So, and even the eligibility for entitlements can change. So again, the main thing is we try to be on top of that. Maybe the new thing I would mention is virtual programming. I think COVID brought in virtual programming, right? Everyone now knows what that is, and Zoom, and who knew about Zoom before COVID? Not that many. But what's great about, I guess where I could say where it is going a little bit in a different direction is that we, as part of our assessment with the client, we ask about technology. What do they know about technology? Do they have the internet? Do they know how to access a computer? Do they have a computer? And if they do, we send out alerts through Blooming Health. That's our companion, our partner, and they can send a text or a phone call or an email to the client based on their preferences in their languages. And we send information about any virtual programs. It could be a virtual lecture from a hospital, let's say, from Jamaica Hospital, just per se, or a hospital special surgery talking about when recovering from hip surgery, or a nutritionist from New York City aging might talk about, fruits and vegetables, or virtual programming in senior centers like they could join from their home. Maybe there's a seating yoga, where they're sitting in chairs and doing the yoga to the best of their ability. They could do that. They can join discussion groups. So really, using the tools that we can, so people aren't, they're homebound, yes, but either through friendly visiting or this virtual programming, we can bring as much enrichment and socialization to their life as possible, because that's probably equally important to the meals. If somebody doesn't have we're social animals, human beings, and if we don't have someone that we can, talk to on a regular basis and check on a regular basis and talk about a TV show we just liked or a book we just read, it can affect them as much as not having a nutritious meal. So we try to look at the client as a whole and use whatever tools we can to kind of bring as much enrichment in their life as possible.
Okay, okay, that's great. That's great. Is there anything else that you would like to tell the audience, something that can help them, or something that maybe they don't know about, or just dispel some myths?
Well, I think the myth is when people hear homebound, they think, oh, that means I never leave my house. Well, no. It doesn't mean you can never leave your house. I mean, sometimes if you have family members or, or friends, you can go out to, let's say, a doctor's, or on occasion you can get out. So it doesn't mean you can never leave your house. So, that doesn't have to be, it just means when they say homebound, that you can't leave on a regular basis on your own, right? Because if you can, then we recommend, as we're doing our intake, that, hey, since you're able to travel the bus and then this, you know what? It's really our recommendation is you go to a senior center, because that's the ideal point. If you're able to and you're mobile, meet friends, have a beautiful lunch, do the activities. But for those people that can't do it on a regular basis, it's one of those things that I wish people knew more about our case manager program, because it
Mhm.
just it just brings so much to a person's life. I mean, you have people suffering. We don't realize, I mean, in even extreme circumstances, like people that were hoarders, that didn't realize how it was impacting their life and how dangerous it was for them. We could be there to help. I mean, that's obviously an extreme case, but even for the client that, again, living on sandwiches, and they don't have a good hot meal with vegetables and all the nutrition that goes with it, where that can make a difference. They're losing weight because they really don't have the money or the ability to cook anymore. I mean, that's a wonderful program. And our daily check-ins with our drivers, again, I cannot stress how important that's been. And what I want to say about our drivers, just a little public service announcement for them, is that they never stopped. When Hurricane Sandy came in, we never stopped a day. There were times that our drivers were giving out meals to the affected areas, and I mean affected, like Howard Beach, if you know Queens,
Yeah.
okay, before the Red Cross get in. Nothing against the Red Cross. Listen, they had their hands full for sure. But our drivers were very often the first on the scene, bringing blankets, bringing food, bringing whatever they needed to get them through that time. And during COVID, we never stopped. Yes, temporarily we had to change how we were delivering the meal, be 6 feet away, wave at them as they got their meal that we put on the door. But that was a difficult time, but our drivers never stopped. And like I said, it's one of those programs that if I'm a family member and I had an older adult for, my parent, my grandparent, I would feel so much better knowing that program is in place because I know now if somebody is going to that person like 6 days out of seven, checking on them, reporting if they don't answer the door, reporting if there's a problem. We don't stop until we find the client.
Mhm.
We've broken down doors with the EMTs because we found clients behind those doors. So it's that sense of security, that knowing that somebody is caring about my mother, my father, my grandparent. And it's just like a hidden secret. So really the main thing is we want to get the word out and, tell people to give us a call. May I give out the
How
contact
do how do
information?
we get in how do we get in contact with you?
Okay. If anyone they could do a few things. For Queens, again, they could start with my main number at Queens for that's Southwest Queens Senior Services under Catholic Charities. And the number there is 718-217-0126. I don't want to give out too many numbers because I don't want to confuse them, but that's a good number because even if they're not in our area, even if they live in Brooklyn, because we have a Brooklyn counterpart, we will refer them okay, to our if they live in Bay Ridge or Bensonhurst. And another really important number I'm going to give out is our helpline number at Catholic Charities, which is 718-722-6001. Now that could be for anyone. It could be for an older adult looking for services, someone looking for services for their older adult loved ones, or any age. Someone's looking for mental health counseling. Someone's looking for housing. Someone's looking for early childhood intervention programs. Whatever. They call our number. Oh, bereavement services, you name it. They call a number and they have their own direct line. So if it's an older adult, they send them to one of my programs. If it's someone looking for early childhood programs, again, they send them to, the counterpart that deals with that. If they're looking for housing, again, they're sent to the right person. So it's like kind of like that's also another one-stop shopping.
Okay, okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deborah, for
Thank you.
this information and letting us know more about Catholic Charities.
Thank
And,
you, Francine.
sometimes I guess people would think Catholic Charities, it just means for Catholics or something like that. Maybe that's what keeps people away. I don't
I
know.
am so
But
glad you said that. Can I just add one more thing?
please.
We are Catholic Charities, yes,
Yeah,
but we serve everyone.
okay.
We are non-denominational. That means you can be any religion, no religion. It matters not. We don't ask. We don't care. It's just kind of how we started, right? That,
Okay.
it's just like JASA, Jewish organization, but they serve everyone as well. So
Mhm.
we can serve everyone, including with our meal types. We serve kosher meals as well as regular meals, halal meals, Latin meals, all types of ethnic meals based on the demographics we will serve. So like they don't let the name fool you. We service everyone. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Awesome, awesome. That's good. Okay, well, great, great. Well, thank you so much for this information. I'm sure it'll
Thank
help someone.
you.
Thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate the work that you're doing.
Francine, thank you. And listen, I got to congratulate you on this wonderful podcast. And you're providing such a wonderful community service. And I just hope more people take advantage of what you have to offer and what we can offer them. And because I think we both have the same mission to get word out there and get people the help and services that they need.
Yes, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you again. All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.